Hello, movie lovers. Today I want to continue on in my journey through the films of 1972. This month I'm focusing in on black cinema. And today I want to talk about Buck and the Preacher, starring Sidney Poitier, Harry Belafonte, in a basically all-black Western. And this is a Columbia DVD. I think it's a pretty old DVD. I don't believe this movie has ever come out on Blu-ray, which is pretty unusual. Seeing as a Western starring Sidney Poitier and Harry Belafonte, you would think it would have been long since come to Blu-ray. Probably has some obscure rights issues involved with it. And as a Western, it's fairly familiar story in one aspect, in that it's about a wagon train of people who are searching for the promised land. This is right after the Civil War. The difference with this wagon train and the ones we're used to seeing in movies is these are all black people, and they're coming from Louisiana. Buck is escorting them. It's a kind of Exodus story. It's kind of where Buck is sort of Moses, and they've been freed, but Reconstruction has run out of steam, and Reconstruction has tried to create equality and farmland for the freed slaves in Louisiana, but it's run out of steam, and the white farmers have regained control as the Union Army left Louisiana. So their alternative is to stay there and be sharecroppers, and which is just another form of slavery in their view, and which they would be totally beholden once again to the white farmers. So they want to go out, even if the ultimate goal is just subsistence farming. That's what they want. They want to be free. And Buck plays their as I say, they're Moses, and he guides the wagon train and through perilous territory, Indian territory, but he knows how to gain safe passage from the Indian tribe that whose land they go through, whose territory they go through. But unfortunately, they're being pursued. The farmers have hired guns to pursue them and to bring them back, to force them back to Louisiana, because their labor force is disappearing. It used to be a free labor force, but now they want to have them as sharecroppers, because there's nobody else to do the work. This group of hired hands, hired guns, are brutal. They attack the wagon train when Buck is not around. They have no qualms about killing women, children, older people. The idea is to create terror, to destroy the train, send the people back to Louisiana. But they're also after Buck, and so they pursue him. And in the course of his escape, he comes across Harry Belafonte playing the preacher, who is skinny dipping in a water hole. Buck needs to get a fresh horse, so he forces a horse trade there, and we see as Sidney Poitier had become the director of the film. This isn't one of his strongest roles. He looks a bit, and understandably so, a bit preoccupied in his directing and acting. But Harry Belafonte takes up the slack. He takes up the slack big time. It's a very showy, very funny performance, and like I say, he's skinny dipping. We actually see him running running from the water hole, trying to get his clothes on. He's playing the preacher, but he's an ersatz preacher. I mean, he carries a Bible around him, but this is just his method of survival in this hostile territory, and he travels alone. He's got bad teeth. Belafonte has no vanity in this role. He lets it out, and of course he has questionable motives, but after he witnesses the brutality that is being implemented on these black settlers, he joins up um, and you could call this, since it's 1972, a blaxploitation western. Certainly, we see the white people being the oppressive, brutal aggressors. But one very interesting point about this, and this is not a storyline that is made up. These are the type of events that actually happen. And what also is true to life is the Indians that they encounter, they're sympathetic to the plights of the blacks. Not enough that they don't want to, trade something. They want something in return for their safe passage, but they know they have the common enemy, that the Indians are done for, and by the white men, by the white cavalry, and treaties are always broken. But they have a certain amount of sympathy, and I don't think that's something we probably had ever seen up until 1972. So one thing, Ruby Dee is in this film, and Ruby Dee, one of my favorite actresses, but she's given hardly anything to do here. But she does get to ride a horse. There's a couple shots where all three of them, Buck and the preacher and Ruby Dee, are just galloping along, and it was kind of fun to see Ruby Dee riding a horse. And there's also lots of action in this film. I mean, this is not, it certainly is confronting issues that the Western had never confronted before. And we're seeing an element of the Old West, a truthful element of the Old West we never saw before, but there's lots of action. There's lots of gun battles and chases. And so as a Western, and it was filmed in Mexico. I think it was filmed entirely in Durango, Mexico. So it's got some good landscapes and good shootouts. So overall, it's definitely a movie that should come to Blu-ray, and it's also very important Western in the sense of black cinema of 1972. Okay, thanks a lot for everybody who listened to me. I do appreciate it. Comments are always welcome. Take care.